All right, welcome folks. Spec Smoky here. This is going to be your sit rep for Friday. Coming to you live from the great state of Texas. It's high noon here, Central Time, and it is January 28th, 2022. And so without further ado, let's hop on over to the board real fast. We're going to start out in our favorite, which is Sky Glass. And just going to point out again, I don't know exactly what's going on with this, if there's an anomaly, if it's a data feed, something different, and we're going to continue to watch it. But for about the third or fourth straight day this week, we've got just an enormous amount of aircraft that are masked, as they call them, right? That's where they don't want to be tracked, right? This is going to be one of those things where they're either NA, blocked, but if you click on one of those, you can see a tail number. And you can physically watch it go somewhere, but if you try to drill down on history or anything about that aircraft, there is no data available. It is blocked by the owner-operator. So again, you know, we normally see it sprinkled about 90 or so. These are thousands. So something has changed in the data model, and I'm not exactly sure what it is, but we will continue to watch it. If it's not the data model that's changed, then there are some shenanigans going on for sure. There are a lot of movements people don't want to be seen, okay? All right, so I'm going to go over here. I'm going to turn off the mask just because it is a lot of clutter when it gets down to the military side of the house. We're going to pull up our list real fast, and we're going to take a look and see what exactly we've got airborne-wise, number-wise. It looks like a majority of this clutter that we see in the middle of the map and right here in the panhandle are going to be trainers. So the Tex-2 and the T-38s looks to be over 100. So it's 100 plus trainers up today, which is a pretty high level. I will tell you, here in this great state of Texas, it is a beautiful clear day out, probably in the 50s. It's quite nice actually, and so great day for flying. And so, all right, but let's take a look here. I want to take first, we're going to look at the tankers. So we got the air refuelers that are up. And let me get over here to see if I've got any others. It's actually easier for me to go alphabetically. So there are 3 more, and I'm not seeing, okay, we'll just kind of go with this as it is. Now, if you look at just the air refuelers up, what are we sitting at? Hang on, what was that number? So 16 and 9. So we're at about just less than 20 air refuelers up over the United States right now. So, you know, you can see there's a little bit of a concentration here in the center of the U.S., a lot of stuff up in the Northeast, and then, of course, right here in that kind of heel area right here along Florida, Jacksonville. But nothing, that's not really a high number. That's kind of low for a Friday, to be honest with you. So, all right, let's go over here and look at the heavies. We got the C-130s. Take off these. See if we've got any E2s. I do see more electronic stuff up here in the U.S. than I normally see. We'll look at that next. C-17s, 15, C-130s, 7 there, and another 19. So, yeah, now that is a heavy number, but that's kind of what we expect to see on a Friday. They do move a lot headed into the weekend. Let me see if we got any C-5s up. 1 C-5. Okay. I often have people ask me, hey, how come you don't show the C-5s? Because that is a big mover. The only aircraft that carries more than that are probably the Antonov and the C-17. But there's not a lot of them out there. So you only see onesie-twosies. I think most of them are over in Europe. I don't see a lot of movement of those here in the United States. So anyway, that's going to be your, I guess, all your heavy movers, supply chain stuff, right? So again, kind of normal for a Friday, but there's almost 50 of them up. But okay, so we'll continue to watch that. Now let's get into the Spycraft real fast, because they're the ones that, as I unclick these, I did see 2 R-135s up. Let's see what else we got. We got an E6 and 3 E2s. The E2s is kind of a, think of that as a Navy AWACS, smaller variant. Than the E3 Sentry. Can still do the same stuff though, really. Just not on the grander scale of the E3s. But it's a pretty impressive little bird. Let me see. So this, we look at the concentration of those. Let me just make sure I've got all of the Spycraft up, at least knowns. Okay, I think we're good there. I do see 16 H-60s up right now too. All right, so this looks like it's we got an E-2 that's going to be a Navy bird off the west coast, kind of in that Sacramento area. And then out here on the east coast, we've got one E-2 flying as an NA and another one called Score 13 that's also out here flying around just off the east coast. And then a couple looks to be E-6s. There's R-135 there. Now we are missing one of them. I don't see it, but that's kind of normal, kind of in that Nebraska, Omaha area to see that R-135. They operate out of there. The E-6, same thing, but typically that one will end up heading down south. But Diplo 37, I think that's an interesting call sign. I haven't seen that one before. All right, so let's back out of Skyglass. Let's take a look. This is our flat map. Kind of matches up with what we're seeing on Skyglass. Now, one thing we don't see on this is the clutter of all the NA aircraft, okay? There are still some up military-wise, but not much really to speak of. So, okay, let's get over here real fast to Flashbang schedule. Going to go through this real fast, and then we're going to look at the TFRs, to see what he's up to today. And then we'll start looking at all the Spycraft that are up and monitoring what's going on in Europe. Again, I think that area is going to go hot pretty soon. I don't think we'll get past February without it happening. My personal guess is probably 7 to 10 days before we start seeing something go. Okay, so it looks like Flashbang is actually delivering some remarks on strengthening the nation's supply chains, revitalizing American manufacturing, and creating good-paying union jobs. Yeah, so let's just take a look at what has been going on with that. Like I said, this guy is like the angel of death. Anything he touches or decides to touch or decides to talk about just seems to go south very rapidly. So, so let's see how he's doing. Let's look at his performance, right? So, looks like U.S. retail sales decreased in December by 1.9%. I'm pretty sure that's a record. The reason I say that is because typically December is kind of when all companies go into the black. That's when they get their best sales. And evidently, it went in the tank this year for some crazy reason. Also, the online sales dropped by 8.7% during the month of December. And electronic sales dipped by 2.9%. And then furniture and home stores decreased by 5.5%. So that's year to year. So that's really a comparison from when Trump was in office to Flashbang, okay? So you can see numbers are going down, inflation's going up, supply chain is leaning out, not good, right? And so we'll transition on over. So just to kind of give you a quick look, this is Long Beach, LA port. It's still racked and stacked. As you can see, people waiting to get in. Has not really improved, maybe marginally, but that was a holiday season bump we saw. And so this looks to be just kind of the norm. So, all right, now let's get over here real fast. I do want to talk about, this was on the Blaze. Just want to point this out. I thought this was a pretty interesting data point, but it says that Flashbang actually called Zelensky in the Ukraine about the threat from Russia. And there's a leaked report that claimed that he told Zelensky an invasion was virtually certain and the country should prepare for impact. He said that the capital of Kiev is expected to be sacked. So that was leaked by CNN, which is leaning left, right? They usually don't sell anybody out on their own team, but pretty funny, all right? So I think it is imminent. I would agree with that. We're going to go into a little more details of some of the stuff behind it, and also talk a little bit about the silence from Trump, because sometimes silence is deafening. So, all right, let's look at the real-time flight trackers here. You can see Forte is up for, this is at least the third time we've looked at it this week. That is going to be a RQ-4A Global Hawk. That U.S.-operated asset, U.S. Air Force, and they are basically grabbing intel in the region. And so you can see Black Sea right here. This is straight up in the heart of Ukraine along its border. So they are, I mean, this thing is pretty capable when you look at the the intelligence it can grab and gather, and it has a long time aloft, right? So it can stay up there a while. And so, again, I think they're all eyes on this. Let's get over here, Brio 68. This is another Spycraft. And then we'll start kind of peeling the onion on these R135s that are everywhere, okay? But the Brio 68, this was yesterday morning, flew from 7:30 a.m. all the way till 5:30 p.m. It's a pretty long flight. Again, this is up in Poland. You can see this is Ukraine here, Belarus here, Black Sea here, Turkey down here. So you can see this bad dude went all the way up into Poland, was actually looking at the border region there. Keep in mind too that Putin has deployed, we know in Belarus as well as his own country, he's got the S-400 surface-to-air missiles, which will basically take out anything that's in the sky. They are pretty effective. He's been putting them in Syria for a little while, and to try and slow down Iran and U.S. airstrikes in the region. But you know, it's a mobile unit. And so when that thing's moving around, they're losing track of the assets, right? Not Russia, but the U.S. and NATO. So they're trying to find these things. And the reason we see these flights running along the borders, running along the region, is because they are actually trying to pinpoint where these units are. Because if it goes hot, or when it goes hot, and we have to go into that area, you don't want your stuff getting shot down, especially a troop carrier or something along those lines. And so knowing where those surface-to-air missile systems are located is key to basically being able to support the effort if we have to, okay? So there's that. Now this is Jake 11. I just want to point out this bad dude's back in Alabama. It flew back from the region the other day, rolled into the UK RAF Mendenhall, and then back over here to Selma, Alabama. So it'll probably redeploy back over there shortly, but that is Jake 11 back in stateside. Okay, so it's CONUS. Now Homer 51, this is a new one, landed 2 hours, 58 minutes ago. It is operating out of Greece. Okay, so it's down here in the island. It's coming up. This is Turkey, Black Sea, right? So looking at water assets, right? Looking at what's on the water. Probably got a pretty good feel of all the naval assets that Russia has put into play. And then it gets up into the Ukraine here, and it's running along the border, probably looking at troops massing here, ready to go. And so, so there's that one. Again, this is just one of many R135s that have been in the area, okay? All right, now this is going to be the Royal Air Transport. This is actually, they're troop movers, but you also get R135s in the mix as well. They kind of all key in as the same thing. That triple R beginning name nomenclature. Let me roll that up right here. You see, they all start with triple R's. Okay. This is the second one actually coming back in. So they were actually looked like they were deploying some folks out in the region earlier today. And then this is the U.S. Camber flight. We got one rolling out of Davis Monthan Air Force Base, and that one is actually headed eastbound, so probably off to the region. And then we have this one, if you notice, not showing any, not on the board, but just showing here. So, and that is Camber, so CMB 587, it looks like. It's a 767-300. Now, that could be coming inbound from abroad, or it could be actually taken off and headed westbound. So, don't know, because it just popped on the board. Again, not showing down here, not uncommon. Also, destination, you'll never see them. They just don't put it on there. Every once in a while, you may see one sprinkle in, but because they're moving troops, that's a key indicator why you don't see where they're going, okay? Okay, let's get over here to Biggs Army Airfield. This place is hotter than a hooker on dollar night. I don't know what's going on here, but it is insane, the amount of flights that are coming and going here right now. I think this looks like they're moving the poppies out at a rapid pace right now, okay? You've got these SPA flights. This is Sierra Pacific coming in and Southwest coming in, coming from Tucson and Denver, okay? These are en route. These are additional flights coming inbound. Again, commercial aviation stuff, contracted for DoD. Okay, now this one is an Atlas Air coming in from Frankfurt, and this one here is actually a national cargo rolling in from Orlando. Now it's based out of that hub. It's a 757-200. These both are troop carriers. Okay, more than likely going to be troop carriers. Now, if we look at departures coming out of Biggs Army Airfield, again, this is El Paso. This is a big hub for the Afghanis that came into the country. Most of them got centralized right there in that location into New Mexico. Okay, now New Mexico is interesting because we're not seeing any activity move out of there, which is, we know they're there because people have seen the tents. They've, you know, my understanding is there are several small cities in New Mexico right now holding poppies. Okay, so this is where they're leaving to. So if you got the Sierra Pacific coming inbound, again, this is a smaller bird, holds about 220 people, 737-500, rolling out of Fort Biggs, and it's headed to, I say Fort Biggs, Fort Bliss, Biggs Army Airfield. St. Cloud, so it's headed to Minnesota, that one is, and then the Southwest flight is also headed to Minnesota. Again, more than likely that's not troops, that's more than likely poppies being rehomed, okay? And so you've got what looks to be within about 30 minutes of each other, just under 450 new Afghanis coming into the area, okay? All right, now this one, United Airlines 777, that one's actually leaving here going to Nuremberg. That is probably a troop carrier, okay? And the reason they put the troops on these versus stick them in a C-17, because they use the C-17s and C-130s for moving equipment. It's not the best, most comfortable ride for a troop to be sitting in the slings on the side with equipment in the middle. Or even if they put seats down the center, you know, roll in the cargo grids with passenger seating in them, just not a great flight. And so they typically just use the commercial airlines to fly troops. You know, it's just a easier way to go. And it frees up the other assets that you can't use, like commercial birds, to move tanks and you know, missile defense systems into the region, okay? So, and also we got some still on the schedule, another SPA flight, sorry. Now, keep in mind, that's the third SPA flight, right? We've got one here, one more right here, all 11 737. So that would bring the number to just under, that's about 675 roughly. Poppies headed into Minnesota, which we know all about Minnesota and the poppies and the Little Somalia and all the other areas up there that are controlled by you know who that got elected, but that's stealth jihad, folks. That's what they do. They come into a community in numbers. Next thing you know, they take over city council, they take over, you know, school boards, etc., and they start to just put their mindset into play. And then before you know it, they're running communities, they're running for Senate, they're running for Congress, you know, the House, whatever it may be, mayor, and they're grabbing slots because they've got the bodies in play to do it. So, all right, and it looks like that Atlas bird's headed to Houston. Again, I think that's going to be assets. We'll watch to see. That could end up going over to Gitmo, but that's headed into Houston area, okay? And that's military. Okay, now one thing I was going to show, there's a video that's out, somebody sent it to me, showing that the last Afghani refugees have left Camp Arterbury. That took place yesterday, and or just within the last 24, 48 hours. Just wanted to point out the fact that that camp is now vacated. We need to keep eyes on it because let's see if they repurpose the assets. That's the biggest concern. Don't know how we'll find that out other than maybe local news reports, or if people are driving by on certain highways and can actually, you know, have eyes on it. But keep your ear to the ground. Let's see if this they start collapsing tents or if they leave them up. Okay. All right. Now over here to our immigrant facilitator. Sorry. This is Swift Air, and as you can see, very busy. Sorry. When I start coughing, it's not good. Usually can't stop. So thank you, COVID. Anyway, but look at the amount of flights. This is probably one of our number one, if not the number one, immigrant movement company from an asset standpoint, airline standpoint in the U.S. It is a well-oiled machine, and I don't know. The real question is, are they being moved out of the country? Are they being relocated in the country? What is going on here? Because this is a lot of assets every single day moving people around the country that are not legally supposed to be here. And you can see a lot of these. This is the interior of our country. Now, we've looked at the Google Maps before in the past, right? We know the military assets. We know the yellows are locations where they are detention centers, things of that nature that are immigrant centric. But you know, are they moving them out of there to another location? When you start seeing them go from inside the country to another location inside the country, or from military base to military base, that's not really a good sign. What you want to see are flights that are picking people up and taking them out, out of the country. And we don't see that. We see them moving these people around the interior of our country. So just not a good warm and fuzzy. We need to pay close attention again. That is a heck of a system to be put into play against the people. When you have tyrannical government in play, we need to all be paying close attention, because when it does go hot, we're not going to have a lot of time to react to it. All right. And so you can see little things bubbling, bills being passed that get our attention, like Washington State, where they have the ability to just come and get you if they want, and put you in one of these camps. And so that's just not a good thing, right? So we need to be paying close attention. So, all right, now this is actually World Airways. They had a flight. It was down into Havana, Cuba, and here and back to the U.S. It has now gone, and there aren't any others showing on the board right now. World Airways is the one that I believe is being operated by the U.S. Marshal Service or the Bureau of Prisons, and they're the ones that are actually moving people out of the country. Okay. All right. Now let's talk a little bit about this. This also was on the Blaze, but I saw Tucker Carlson cover a very similar topic on the same information. But I just want to point out one thing. One, if you've been part of the Monkey Nation for the last 6-8 months, a year, you already knew this stuff was going on. This is old news, okay? Even though it printed January 27th, 2022, I will tell you this flight was from August 13th, 2021. All right, so this is old news for us. For the rest of the general population, it is indeed, something fresh that people probably didn't have eyes on. You are more informed than that. Like we said, we have been knowing this is going on for a while. The same thing, we'll probably find out in about 6-8 months. They'll pop on and start talking about the poppies going into these into these counties by these Democratic appointees that basically turned a blind eye and let them roll in. But it's the magnitude. This is one flight with probably about 200 people tops on it. When the reality is, this is going on, as you see over here. Let's see. We pull up these flights. You talk about one flight. Well, I'm showing you right here. There's at least 15 of them that are doing the same thing, day in and day out. Okay, every single day. So are they full? Don't know. But this is not new. And the news is just kind of catching on to it. It'll be a hot topic for a little while, and then it's just going to fade out, and then it'll come back again. This is, one thing I've always pointed out is that if you're watching the skies, you can really tell what your government's up to, and you can tell from not just the military, but you can also tell from a civilian standpoint, because there's history there, right? You can go back and track it. You can watch it. You can go pull up this flight. You can go into that airport through our asset tools that we use, all these trackers, and validate everything that's being shown to you. And the nice thing is we're actually catching it all on the front end, and the media is just clueless, right? So anyway, there is that. All right, let's get over here to Guantanamo Bay. As we look at the Friday board, looks pretty normal. I don't see anything out of the usual traffic for Friday. Again, this is the Uber for legal eagles coming down. Airborne Express coming in from Norfolk, Virginia. And these are cargo runs. This is our normal little bird. They just kind of put a new one in sequence from time to time, but that's a Tuesday, Friday flight. And then you can see them departing there as well. Now, the interesting thing is there aren't any known cases going on right now, all right? And the fact that we're still pumping in pretty regular tempo, even though we don't have any of the 9/11 stuff going on, that tells you there are a ton of other things going on there at that base location. Again, we know there's an immigration facility down here. We've been looking at that already. This is a Guantanamo Bay Migrant Operations Center. And then, of course, we know there are some other classified spaces happening because they've spent $15 million building them in the last 6 months, okay? Now, there is one flight that is rolling out of Guantanamo Bay. I thought was interesting. It was on the board. As you see over here now, it's not on the board. That's kind of fun little shenanigans they do from time to time. But this is actually a flight leaving Guantanamo Bay headed to West Palm Beach. Now, we know who lives in the West Palm area. That's going to be Trump. But this is the owner is Tuck Aerial Surveys, Inc., and it's supposedly a little Bell Ranger jet, or Jet Ranger. It's a B06 single shaft turbo. It's, you know, I don't know. That looks like a long way for a helicopter to fly. I'm not going to lie. But if you get in the registration, it does indeed show as a helicopter. 112 mile an hour max speed. Trying to see what I don't see any other range or information on there, but I don't know. This one just kind of gets your attention. 5-seater, 1 engine. And then it's also not only Tuck Aerial Surveys, but it's also Big Stone Gap. But I don't, that's just a long way. Just seems like a long way. I do like the little sniper thing on the side. I think that's kind of a cool touch. Got some camera stuff mounted on the bottom. Yeah, that just seems like the range on that from a West Palm to Guantanamo Bay. They're clearly going to have to do some fuel stops. That may be why we see this thing flying back over some of the land areas, right? So you can see rolls out of here, kind of hits that island point, gets across land area, land area, land area. So more than likely, this dude's going to do a fuel stop either at the halfway point here or somewhere up here. I just can't see it getting all the way to here. All right, that's a pretty long flight, especially for that little thing with not a lot of fuel. Okay, so maybe even stop here, get a little gas everywhere you see it going over the land spots, refueling to get back. So, all right, that's the kind of just an oddball. Like I said, I don't really know what the purpose is, why it's there, but okay. Let's get over here to Starlink, or sorry, SatFlare. We've got a flurry of Starlinks satellites that are coming back inbound. This one is let's see, the 28th today around 5 p.m. supposed to re-enter. Again, if you get up here, you look at the next to decay. There's 5 of these dudes stacked up. So I guess what happens is they get into that low orbit. They're there for a little while, and then they just do a control burn, bring them back down. Probably makes for a heck of a light show, I imagine, coming inbound, as long as it's not hitting land. I haven't seen any of them hit land yet. I've seen them get pretty close. But anyway, there is that. And then let's get over here real fast. Look at N721AL. This is actually one of the FBI DOJ birds. We've tracked it from time to time. I will tell you this here in this area, this is maintenance. So it's been up there doing some, probably a C check. Wasn't there long enough to really do a heavy D check, but it was long enough to do a C check. So it looks like it came in for a C check, and then now it's headed back to DC. So next week we'll start watching it again for leaving out of the Senior Living Center Brown Zone area, and see what happens. All right, there's that. And then of course here is Department of Homeland Security Secretary. Landed 17 hours ago, went from the Brown Zone Senior Living Center out to Santa Rosa, California. So we'll continue to watch, see if anything pops in over here in the coming days and weeks, all right, from a news cycle standpoint. So let's get our TFRs real fast before we wrap up. I know we're hitting the bottom of our hour here. Looks like we've got VIP one coming in. That's going to be Flashbang headed up. He's traveling today into that general area to talk about, you know, what he's going to do to improve the economy. And then, of course, we got this one inside of the Senior Living Center. I don't know. That's a VIP one. Again, kind of unusual to see it when you already have one there, but we do. And then this is a space operations right off the beach area there. Same thing down here. Not seeing anything else. I think these are gas related. Same thing here, the little tiny ones. That's an air show, border stuff, Beale Air Force Base. And then let's see, let's get in because that's where kind of the general area where we saw C202 kind of go into. And so this seems to be just the hazards in that general area. So, all right, that's going to be your TFRs. And we'll get back over to the main board real fast as we wrap up. Total number up right now, sitting at about 318. Not seeing, let me get over to H60s real fast and see kind of a lower number. It's at about 14. Yesterday we had it up to about 48, I believe. So, all right. Well, listen, that's going to get us into the weekend. Continue to watch the Ukraine as things develop. And like I said, if it goes hot, I don't think it's going to impact us here in the U.S. other than us supporting it through NATO. But economy-wise or anything else like that, it's just a distraction. Oh, this is why. I knew I was missing something big. Let's talk about this real fast. The reason that you see the things going on over there right now, and the reason Trump is so quiet, pay attention to this now. You're going to notice just right of center of the map, right above George Soros, is the Ukraine, okay? These are all the pay-to-play schemes that were mapped prior to Trump coming into the office. And so this goes back into Hillary, this goes into Biden, this is the Kenyan, this gets into Hunter, Burisma, it gets into all of that. These are all mapped based on news articles that came out during that time frame about the shenanigans of our elected officials basically raping and pillaging our country. And they were in a frenzy, like a bunch of rabid dogs, okay? But the reason why I think Putin is forcing the hand and flushing this out is to put pressure on Flashbang, right, and his son. And so that's why I say Ukraine owns them, literally, because they probably have a lot of information they could put out there. You may remember at the tail end of Trump's stint, he actually, or not him, but somebody in the Ukraine issued an arrest warrant for Hunter and Joe. And so it's just, I just find it interesting that the dynamics that are happening. A lot of this is politically driven, but don't take your eyes off of that because that is really a big part of this that nobody's really reporting on, okay? So anyway, that's it. Listen, you guys stay frosty out there. Keep your powder dry. I'll see you again on Monday. God bless. Monkey out. Check out the latest gear and products at monkeywerxus.com.